Hey, we are back with Louder Than Words with your host and co host, Monique, right here, and Dr. MTW. What's up, my brother?
What's up? Peace and blessings to all the good people out there. Pray that y'all having an extravagant week.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you know what? I am really excited that we are back together again, and we're going to try to make this happen a lot more often, y'all. Everybody has a life, things are going on, but we want to make sure that we come on here and share, some gems for you all because we know life be lifing, and sometimes it just feels good to get an encouraging word from somebody else or to get a different perspective so that you can make it through. Last time we came together, we talked about the importance of knowing your history because y'all know what? If you don't know your history, honestly, you don't know where you came from, it's kind of hard to navigate where you're going. So, we're going to talk about today something else that's very, very important for all of us to reach our goals, to be sustainable in life in general, and that is the power of our mindset. The power of your mind is something else because the mind can play tricks on you. If you don't get your thoughts right, you can dwell on some things that'll take you all the way left. Oh, last time we got together, we talked about, knowing your history and why it's important to know your history. And just that's identity, right? That's just knowing who you are, where you came from. And it really helps to establish that foundation so you know where you're going in life and certain things you just don't want to repeat. There's some things you want to change along the way. So today we're going to be talking about the power of the mind, right? That's just another aspect of taking control of your destiny, knowing your identity, knowing where you're going. Is you also have to really get in control of the way that you think. And sometimes the way that we think has been influenced by things that have happened in our past, some things that have been in our historical background. So, Dr. MTW, you want to go ahead and lead this conversation about the power of the mind?
Yes, most definitely. That's as you see, I was just my mind was playing tricks on me a few seconds ago. But I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. It's just in the world when it comes to that, I believe you always dealing with constant distractions, especially if you're a person that's focused and has goals and try to practice discipline. I feel like when you try to practice it, that's when your mind start playing tricks on you the most. When you're trying to be consistent. And honestly, I'm speaking, when I speak, I don't speak from a place of I've mastered anything. I'm speaking from I relate and I'm going through this. I'm speaking from experience, basically. Like, so when I'm talking to people or talking to you, I'm really talking to myself. And it's just things that I observe and notice. And I try to write it down and keep notes, basically studying myself, but studying my own mind as I explore the world and try to learn and navigate and progress. So, that's something I definitely have noticed just even over these past few years, trying to lock in and write more, that doubt start creeping in. Then you start looking for validation after you working on something for so long. It's kind of to become a habit. And I notice I'm like, these are mind games I'm playing on myself. You gotta learn how to navigate through that. You gotta learn how to like lock in basically and put the blinders on, if you will, and try to forget about the tricks of the mind.
Absolutely, man. I can talk about some mindset stuff all day long. Because listen, I feel like I didn't go to school or anything to go, master the mind or anything like that. But I feel like over time, I have come to realize that if I don't control the thoughts that are in my head, they're going to control me and they will take me all the way off track. Just like you said, it's distractions. And honestly, it's just like you said, once you make a decision to sit down and focus on a project, a dream project, even at that, right? Something that you just really, really had a desire to accomplish, to work on. Sure enough, something is going to come to take your mind off of it. So the challenge is how in the world do you regain control of your thoughts? Because it starts with a thought, right? Oh man, I gotta go finish such and such. Oh, I didn't do, man, I gotta wash those clothes. I gotta get up, go to work tomorrow. I didn't do, man, all these things you start thinking about that'll distract you from the one thing you sat down to do. And then sometimes the very things you think about can probably wait. So how do you manage that?
that's the struggle right there. That's the constant fight that I feel like most people deal with. Even people that are successful, they probably still struggle with that all the time because, the more successful you become, the more progress you see, the more doors that open comes with more distraction, possibly more problems. You know what I'm saying? You are walking into a new world. New worlds bring new adventures, and it's you got to constantly navigate through those adventures, and you got to realize that what you're working on is for the future. It's not for the now. The distractions are trying to pull you and make you live in the moment, momentary, the momentary joy or momentary success. But you got to constantly give yourself these goals down the line and remember that you playing chess right now. It's all about the steps. It's all about the next 4 or 5 moves, not your move now. That's the thing that you got to, I try to remind myself of, and even give myself little routines like writing stuff down, time frames, putting it on my calendar, get up, read, write, work out. I have children, so I got to put them in there, food time, read time, play time, things like that, and try to, you kind of own that robot, and you feel it's kind of like you kind of being a robot, but at the same time, you got to realize it's for a purpose.
You said a mouthful. I heard a couple of things, especially when you're focused on your goals. That's for the future. However, things are distracting you because it's hitting you in the now. You said it so much better than what I'm replaying here. But it was so critical about our focus should be on making some things happen that's going to build legacy, that's going to get you set up right for your future, right? But the things that's happening now, they demand you they demand your attention too, right? But there has to be a way still carve out uninterrupted time, and it may have to be in short spurts. It may probably you can't sit down for a whole hour. You might have to do 20 minutes at a time for a thing, depending on what it is, just to get it done. You might have to put your phone on do not disturb. If you said you have the kids, somebody gonna have to watch the kids for 20 minutes straight so I can get this thing done. It means it takes effort, right? It doesn't just happen. It's not going to all work in your favor unless you set up some things so that you can facilitate it working in your favor, right?
Definitely, you take discipline, and like I was saying when I was saying like kind of becoming a robot. I really trying to remind myself, man created robots, so it's really imitating us. We gotta remember that we got discipline in us though. It's just you gotta remember that these distractions really aren't anything. It's nothing to focus on. It's just momentary. You look at it and get back to work. You gotta just continue to remember your passion, because that's something I've been dealing with too. Because like you said, I was breaking it up where I was having 20 minutes, 30 minutes here writing time, and then I started slowly seeing it disappear with work and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, now I'm back working and trying to hustle, so the 20 minutes kind of fading away, and I'm like, all right, I got to really make sure I lock in some time here, maybe get up earlier, and I'm starting to realize why so many successful people cut a lot of sleep out of their life. It's because it really kind of gets in the way after a while.
That's so true. And, and that's where we also have to be careful because I happen to be like a type A personality. Like I just go all in 100%. When I'm driven, I'm driven, and I'll stay up all night to get something done, right? But we also got to remember that we can't sacrifice our health, right, to get things done. But it does mean that when you're on that trek, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a writer, or you just have certain goals that you're just pressing toward just to build legacy or whatever it is for your life, you are going to have to cut some things out, right? Some pleasures get cut out. Socializing with people get cut out instead of like some people like to do like Friday, Saturday night hangouts. Well, you know what? For the person that's trying to build something in life, they just can't do the Friday, Saturday night hangouts. I might get to see you first Fridays. I might get to see you, one time a month, but I'm on a mission. And you really have to stick to it that way. And yes, entrepreneurs, people that really come out with amazing products and businesses, they're all in, they're focused, they're dedicated to make it happen. And I learned that just being a part of some entrepreneur clubs that I've been in. And they'll tell you, it's a lonely ride. it's lonely until you get to where you're trying to be. But in the process, you got to cut a whole lot of things out. Sleep. I know I only sleep 2 to 3 hours a day, and that's not healthy. That's probably why I gained weight, y'all. But it's not healthy. So when you think about the power of the mind, how in the world do you train your mind, or can you train your mind to get all of those things we just talked about in perspective, and making sure that we get the right priorities in place? Like I just said, you need more than 2.5 to 3 hours of sleep every day. The body requires more, right? People
Hmm.
can say all day, "Oh, I can get up," and you just been doing that. You made it a habit, but your body requires more. So, how do you utilize the power of your mind to get things in perspective and tighten up?
Well, since I got back serious about working out a few months ago, I started realizing that it take exercises. Just like you got to exercise your body to bring that muscle memory back, break down your muscles, re-strengthen them, and continue. And you gotta, you know how you gotta add more every week to your workout. You gotta up the reps. You gotta up the sets. It's the same thing with your mind. You gotta continue to work on that. Whether even working out for me is a mind exercise because it's teaching me discipline. It's making me, I have to sit here and go through and put pain on my body, inflict pain on myself for hours to get a result. It's the same thing when you trying to go for something. I gotta sit here and read, even though I enjoy reading, so it's really not that much of a pain on me. But it's hard to get that time when you got children that's tearing up the house, throwing stuff, yelling, screaming. So it's like you gotta really try to. For me, I honestly just remember where I was in prison. I used to have noises going on, people getting tortured and screaming all around me, but I just have to dive into them books and just zone out and like really allow my mind to leave where I'm at. So I kind of do the same thing here. And also I learned that's why it's important to schedule though. You gotta and stick to that schedule. That's all a mind exercise. You reconstructing your thinking instead of being so free and so pleasure driven, just living for the joys of life. You living for something more purposeful, and it forces you to continue that regimen.
That was good. So I heard you shouldn't be pleasure driven. You should be purpose driven if you have goals you're trying to achieve. Bottom line. I mean, you could be pleasure driven all day if you don't want nothing, or
Yeah.
you've already accomplished everything.
Hmm.
I'm glad you mentioned about your mindset, or using the power of your mind when you were in prison, because I really wanted you to hit on that, because you had to really have a strong mind to get through a lot of the things. Like you said, you could hear so many distractions, and you said even tortures. It's like some really bad stuff goes on in the prison, and your way of escaping that was, like you said, reading. Just talk a little bit more about that, like how you really handled your mind, because you were very young when you went in.
Yeah, even that was a culture shock in itself going in so young and realizing like I always had a family right there, like if something bad happened to have my back. As soon as I got in there I started learning like that's over with, that's out. Your mom, that's the first thing they tell you, your mom and dad can't save you in here, you on your own. And it's true, it's literally nothing going on. They're not going to report nothing back to the family. If something happened to you, you could call up there all you want, they not going to care. And it just lets you know like it's scary, but it forces you into growing up immediately. Like I gotta figure this out. I can't. There is no pleasures. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta low key create them myself. I gotta find them myself through books, through writing, through reaching out to people. Trying to communicate with people that's not miserable or not this in this plantation I'm on. So it's like that right there is what put me into the books. And it for an average person, that seemed, that's probably something they're not into. Most people want to be out, out and about. They want to be seen, and they want you to see how they living, and you know what I'm saying. Like most people love attention, so it's like you kind of become an introvert even on the streets. That's something I learned in prison. Like being an introvert not bad. It just give you time to really focus on yourself. But at the same time, like we was talking about, the mind will play tricks on you. So I learned that recently because in prison, like I said, it's not that many distractions. So out here, I'm seeing like all of these distractions really can throw you off. It really it's not as easy to focus out here as it is when I was in prison. Cause you know, you constantly seeing you know, you see people out here having things, having money, having clothes, jewelry, cars, beautiful women. It's, you know, it's everything out here to distract you. So you kind of gotta re, I have to remind myself of what I've been through and how I became disciplined and how I found discipline at one time in my life, and that was really in prison. So
Yeah.
out here, I kind of put myself back in that place, just with the structure I said, writing down a schedule, sticking to my workout routine, my writing, my reading, and trying to remember that I'm working toward a goal that's not immediate.
It's not immediate. That's what you said earlier. I didn't say it the way you said it. I like the way you put it because it's not immediate. It's a goal that you're working on. It's not immediate. And that's really hard in a society where everything is right here at your fingertips. We're so used to just getting it quick, getting it quick, getting it quick. And it's like, now I'm working on something that's down the road. I know it's going to be worth it when it's all said and done, but man, it's going to take time to get there. And so between here and the ultimate goal, I still got to make money. I still got bills. I still got kids. And now that really does make it more challenging to get to
Hmm.
that end goal, because you know it's going to take time, but now that means you got to fill up that space of time with other things, and that can distract you if you don't keep that goal right in front of you. That you can lose sight of what you're trying to get to because of the immediate,
Hmm.
and that goes back to, being strong in your mind. But there's people who will probably say, how can I use my mind to control, situations that normally I blow up, I lose control, and then I get off track. I done lost so much control, got so distracted. I done blew everything that I was working on now, because now I done got, let's just say I just got upset about something. And now everything that I was trying to do is just shattered because this situation has taken my mind off of it. What can people do to prevent that? Because sometimes there's triggers. There's things that could,
For sure.
how in the world do you manage that?
That's something I noticed about when you get caught in those, when you stumble on certain things, and you know, it might be some traumatic stuff, it might be some terrible things you're going through, something, you know, it could be anything. It's always going to be something to get in the way. But one thing I noticed, it's about getting over it. Like I could think about something that happened 10 years ago and it'll have me down for like a whole day. You can't give it no power. That's the thing. When you dwelling on it, you sitting there. When the dwelling is what distracts you. You can't dwell on it because if you notice, you'll go through life fine without thinking about the things that got you down. You'll go through everything will be fine as long because you're distracted by positive things. But once you allow that negative to distract you, it could anchor you, it could pull you right down. That's what I learned. Even recently, I've been going through that. I'm like, dang, because I was going down, back it down to my past. Because I usually always do this, look back on my life to try to remember times when I was stronger or when I was on to something, or I'm trying to get, I'm trying to bring a strong memory back and trying to reinforce my mentality, my mind state. So sometimes it'll take me to something I shouldn't have thought about or something. You know, I'm like, dang, when I was doing that, it could have been this. You know, like that
Mhm.
regret. That's why it's not good to regret. Even though we humans, but you can't think about those regrets because it's gone. It's crying over spilled milk. It's something that already happened. As
It
soon as you get
already
over
happened.
that, you get to moving forward faster. You get to progressing, and then just you got to understand that you're gonna keep going through stuff. That's life. Life gonna keep it's gonna keep putting stuff in the way, and it's especially when you focus. The more you focus, the more distractions are gonna come. The more that you're gonna try to get stopped. The more haters gonna get in the way. But that's just a part of making you stronger. That's part of the obstacles. That's just because what you're going for is so worth it that it's everybody trying to stop it. They don't even know it. Subconsciously, they trying to stop you. That's where you got to lock in and remember, like, nope, I know what I'm on right now. I got to stay focused.
That is good. And you talked, the key thing that made me clap when you talked about not dwelling on it. You cannot stay in a thought too long. When you get to dwelling, that is where, that means you're dwelling. That becomes your living space. And if you
Hmm.
done made that negative situation in your head become your living space, then you're going to end up stuck there. You can pull up a couch and you to kick back and you just wonder, well, how did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? Life is still going on. It's still
Yes.
going on. And so the key is don't dwell on things. Some thoughts will come. You know, you're going to think back to the past, because I just went through that because I was tripping off of all the weight that I've gained. And I was like, dang, well, what did I do last year? Like you just said, you went back in your thought process. I said, well, what did I do differently last year that I'm not doing this year that's causing this? And so I just kind of played it in my head. And in that case, that could be a good reason, right? That could be a good thing to go back and say, well, maybe I need to go back to whatever it was I was doing then because it worked. But if I stay stuck in, man, I didn't gain all this weight. I don't even know how to get back there. I don't have the energy to do all the stuff I was doing before. I don't know. Then I'm dwelling on it, and it's a mess. It's like, nah, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work.
Yeah. No, there's nothing wrong with going back over your blueprint towards success. It's just when you go back to the blueprint to the devastation or the destruction or the down, that's when it's bad. You can't. There's no reason to go back to that unless you're going back to what got you out of that. You know,
Yeah.
there's no reason to dwell on that because I'm pretty sure everybody could think of one time or they got some regret in their life that hold them that constantly come up, and some people get over it, some people don't think about it, or some people will sit there and just let it hold them down. And that's the doubt. That's the part because people seem to remember their failures more than their successes. But
Mm-hmm.
when you start to realize how much stuff you overcame, you'll start realizing you're really a champion. That was just temporary distraction. That was just a little momentary hurt. But you're more powerful
Absolutely.
than that.
Yep, that was just momentary. Absolutely. So the really what this boils down to is we are in control of our own minds. We are in control of our thoughts. And if we don't take authority over them, and literally, and this is where I go Bible on that part, because it's a scripture, 2 Corinthians 10:5. And I mean, I keep going back to that, because it literally tells us to take our thoughts captive. Bring those thoughts captive. And it goes on to say, make them obedient to Christ. Make them obedient. Because here's the thing, and the way I look at it is, if I'm having all these thoughts that's all over the place, that means it's chaos. And God is a God of order. He ain't a chaotic God. So I'm like, yeah, those distractions are just trying to mess you up. So how do you bring those back? You start meditating on the things that you know to get done, the things that you know are in alignment with that goal that God has for you. That's how I look at it, because it's clear. It says, take those things captive. Don't let that stuff be all over the place, because you're going to be in chaos.
Yeah, for sure. You most definitely would be all over the place. I'm a living example of that. It's done happened to me plenty of times, and I constantly got to pull myself by the reins and be like, man, come on, let's get back focused. Sometimes I just got to snap out of it right where I'm at. I'll just start doing push-ups or working out. Like, you know, I'm gonna just lock in right here. That's how I snap out of the distractions sometimes. And then for the most part, I don't have the same as many distractions as most people. My distraction is probably simple. Just as a
Mm-hmm.
father, you know, you want to get out of the house sometimes. You want to be away from the kids sometimes, or just you know. But even then, I realized because I done cut out a lot of things in my life, and I still realized that didn't change nothing. It's about your mentality. Because even though I done cut out a lot of stuff, I'm still have moments where I probably wasted a few hours just about in my head thinking about stuff I want to do and didn't do anything at all. Think
Mm-hmm.
about getting to it. You know, it might be a little distraction here and there with the kids doing stuff that'll take me off of it, and I just will be stuck there for a minute. Like, all right, you gotta get back, folks. You gotta lock in. You don't even have time to waste that much. When you think about it, I'm looking up and it's like the day is over with. And that's what I was gonna say earlier about prison.
Mm-hmm.
In prison, you trying to kill the time. You want the time to go by as fast as possible. So you constantly trying to fill it up. Out here, you trying to stuff a whole bunch of things in one little container in one moment, one little second, and you don't got that much time. You know what I'm saying? It's like you trying to jam pack everything in this one moment, and the whole day is going by. Everything is taking steps and it's a process to everything you're doing.
You just described my life. I'm always trying to cram 15 things into five, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. So the difference between being, like you said, being in prison, you have nothing but time, and out here in this world, it's fast paced. Everything is moving and moving and moving and moving, and you're just I'm trying to get to work. I got to get to the grocery store after work. I got to go deal with the kids, but I want to get this podcast done, or I want to get this book written, and trying to fulfill your dreams, right? And let's be honest, not all of us is born with a silver spoon in our mouths. So we can't just take the time off to go focus in on our dreams. We got to go make that money, right? So there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going on. And the ability to manage it all means that your mindset has to be right up front. You have to be able to take authority, operate in your power. And for me, it's getting to a place of knowing what it is that I'm trying. What do I want to do? So I believe in writing. I believe in writing down my goals. A lot of people feel like they don't have to. I done tried to get a couple folks in this house write your goals down, right? Make a plan. I know what I'm gonna do. It's in my head. If it's in your head, in my mindset, it's just a dream. But when you start writing it down, it becomes real, and then you start taking this is how I do it. Take action steps to accomplish the thing. Because if I don't write it down, it's really not real. It's just in my head. What you think about that?
Yeah, write it down or record it, whatever you're more comfortable with. But yeah, most definitely, I just had to start doing that again because I was a freestyle king too. I thought like, man, I could just come off the top with it, which I kind of do when I write, but I have to have direction. So I'm freestyling when I write, but I also have an outline right here where I'm like, okay, this gonna happen here. Like this, I need to explain how he got here. You know what I'm saying? So I got a map of what I'm doing, but I'm still freestyling. So if you a freestyler, you still got to kind of direct it. You know what I'm saying? You got to have some type of direction. It ain't just, oh, I'm gonna just come off the top with no topic or no route or nothing. I'm gonna just make it happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, most definitely, I agree with you on writing because I see the power in that recently. Just from every time I write down my idea, later on I go back and I expound on it, and I come up with way more. But if I don't write it down, I usually just completely forget what I even thought about later. Like it'll just slip my mind.
I think it helps to bring order. Like it just helps to bring order to things because you're right. I can freestyle things. I mean, there's having a conversation like this because I'm comfortable talking, so I don't have a problem with it. And any topic, anybody can throw any topic at me, and I will talk it through. I will talk it all the way through. Even if I don't know a whole lot about the topic, I will find a way to talk through it just because I don't know. That's just me, right? But if you have order to a thing, it'll keep it focused where it needs to be, right? So let's say that there's some specific points that you're trying to make. Well, yeah, you need to write that down and just, you don't have to have the whole thing written. You just have a couple of bullet points because I want to make sure that I hit these points because you're right. You might have that thought in the back of your mind somewhere, but now the day has come for you to address it. And I didn't write it down. I don't remember what the heck that was, right? Because life has happened. So I definitely believe in writing things down. But the other thing that I want to talk about in terms of the power of the mind is how you think about, let's say, your financial situation, right? Sometimes we can just look at in our face, checkbook, bank account is not where I want it to be. But because it's not where I want it to be, do I get frustrated or do I get motivated to go make it happen? Some people back to dwelling. They'll dwell on what they don't have and they'll keep speaking all this negative. Well, I can't, well, I don't, guess what? Then you won't ever. But when you start saying, oh yeah, oh, okay, I'm gonna go do this. I can make this. Oh, I know how I can go get that money for this. That's how I think. Like I picked up, and some people probably had knocked this. I picked up a second job because there was some things I needed to get handled. I ain't scared to work. But there's
Hmm.
some people like, I don't know where this money gonna come from. Maybe I go ask somebody. I ain't asking. I'm finna go make it happen. I'll go figure it out. I don't know what you think about that.
So you a different breed though. You always, I've never seen you not going after it or working or hustling. You know, you some people. That's what I feel like. A lot of us need to get on though. We too, like I said earlier, we too pleasure driven. We too driven by the flesh or the joys of life. We want to please, or we want even with our eating, we want to have. We eat to comfort. We don't eat to feel. We eat. You know, we go out. Everything is more like just joy. It's not about building. You know, I even noticed that when I'm out and about with people, like I see like more people, clowning, talking trash. That's kind of like our thing. But like I'll be like, man, why we don't just build each other up? Like why don't you? commend that brother for being a good father, or being, or you know what I'm saying, going to work every day. Like, you know, it's just about the mentality. You know what I'm saying? Because we could. It's people that enjoy talking about money and how they making money and passing on the game, and they enjoy talking about philosophy. And I run into people who they discuss books on wealth, and that's all they talk about, and they love it. They enjoy the discussion of the stock market and what, because that's their lifestyle. They don't. It's all about training your mind, which is what we talking about. The distractions. They are living on a whole nother planet basically, compared to a lot of other people, and we don't understand it because we got all these little trinkets that we distracted by. We're in competition with each other at all time, and the person we in competition with don't have nothing. Nobody has ownership for real. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you gotta completely change your thinking. You gotta master your mind, which is something I'm constantly trying to work on. I don't have it. Trust me, I do not have it. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely constantly working on that every day. I'm trying to force myself to think about where I've been, and how I was thinking then, and why was I so strong at that time. And I gotta remind myself I'm still that strong. I'm still that focused. I still got the discipline. It's just don't you can't dwell on the little trinkets, you know what I'm saying? You can't dwell
Yeah.
on it.
I like that. You said you can't dwell on the little trinkets. You got people out here that's going after like the big things, and we being distracted by all these little things, and we're wasting time. Some of us are wasting time with the little, like you said, the little trinkets, the little distractions, and you got a big goal out here that is achievable, right? But I got all this going on. I got all this. Everything is about mindset. I've been just saying that a lot lately. Everything. It's how you think about life. It's all about your mindset. I have been dealing with, I don't want to get too personal in here, but there's some people in my life that whew, I've often tried to encourage to make better choices. I'll just say that. And then I would get frustrated when they don't. Then I realized you up here thinking about the outcome that could hurt them and the potential that could ultimately hurt you if something happens to them, but you're dwelling on stuff that hasn't even happened yet. So you know what? You're gonna have to let that stuff go. You done said what you said. You've imparted your knowledge, and whatever happens is just gonna have to happen. Ain't nothing you could do about it. But you got to just think about, where are you today? And that was me taking back control of my mind. And that's another example. Parents can do that. Parents do that. You worry about your child. You worry about, are they going to make the right choice? And you can stay up all night and not get any sleep because your mind is thinking hard about all the potential outcomes that can happen to that child because they're not listening or because they want to do things their own way. But you yourself as a parent, you really can't control that. You've planted the seed, you said what you said, and now you have to let that go. That is serious. That's mind control. You really have to bring all those thoughts into captivity, and for
Yeah.
me, make them obedient to what the Word of God says, and let everything else go. I don't know your
Most
thoughts, babe.
definitely. Yeah, humans are complex. There's nothing simple about humans. And you definitely can't control no human other than yourself. And half the time we can't even control ourselves. So that's a defeated battle right there in itself. As soon as you start, there's not even any point. That's why we are told to plant the seed and let God do the rest. Because there's nothing else after that you can do. And if you do, you're gonna just end up, like you said, being distracted from what you got going on, because now you focused on another human that you know you can't control at all. It's impossible.
You can't. And that is a major distraction. And I call it the enemy of our destiny. The enemy of your destiny will definitely throw in the one you love to become your biggest distraction.
Oh yeah, I learned that a long time ago when I used to just be even getting into it with my homies and stuff. And then, even dealing with women, I'm like, dang, it's only the people close to you that bother you the most. They the ones. It's only came because when you think about it, who else you don't know, the people that you don't know, they ain't finna, they can't get up on you like that. It's
No.
only it's only the people you let in.
Yep. The enemy will use the very people, your children, your spouse, whatever. Anything that will get you. So So now that we recognize that, and I think that's the biggest key to all of this is recognizing what's really going on, identifying the distraction, identifying when it pops up. And in that way, you can get to the place where you say, "Oh, I see you coming. I'm about to put this down right now. You're not about to mess me up because I'm going to stay focused." And I do that. I catch myself now. I catch the distractions right when they're
Yeah,
coming. I'm like, I'm not going to get into that. I'm taking my piece. I got to focus on what I'm doing. And that's it.
most definitely. That's a lot of that, that's something else I learned in prison. Surprisingly, because it's such a violent place, and usually everything is answered through violence. But in reality, prison is probably 90% psychological. It's 90% mental. I mean, you can say that about life, but it just it's a confined space, so you kind of probably see the violence happen more often than you would out here, and it's more people with violent backgrounds just all in one confined space. But it's really mental, just like out here in the real world. Everything is more of a mental battle than physical. So it's,
Yeah.
you gonna constantly, like, what basically what I'm saying is I didn't have to always deal with things with violence in prison. I learned I had a lot of the times the smartest OGs in there learn how they knew how to manipulate with their words. They knew how to control the situation with their thoughts, and they'll quell the situation or let it escalate. You know,
Wow. Wow. Yeah, but you're right. It's psychological.
for
It's
sure.
psychological. Like literally, like you said, you have to tap into your psyche and manage it. Basically, you're constantly in the state of strategizing. It's like you have to strategically handle this situation, and you have to weigh the consequences. Well, if I go this way, this could happen. If I handle it, that's man. You talking about exercising your mind?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, unless you're someone who just like are comfortable not doing anything, just in the house on the couch or something, you become a tactician the moment you leave the house. You got to navigate, figure out which route you're gonna take. If this road shut down, you got to figure out something else. You got to. Sometimes people think about how they gonna approach work. Like, am I gonna talk to this person, or I'm gonna try to avoid this person? You know what I mean? Everything you doing is tactical.
It's
It's
all
just
tactical.
it's just levels to it.
Yep, you're right. It's all tactical. For me, because I tend to lean more on the spiritual side of things. Before I even go into a meeting, I pray and I ask Holy Spirit to just to tell me when to speak and tell me when to hold and help me to listen. And I do that before, especially when I'm going into meetings with leadership, and they always work out well. They work out.
Yeah, because you going in with a guided hand. I've been doing that a lot lately too. I am like that usually all the time. I pray before I leave the house. When I'm traveling, I pray for everybody on the road. I'm always praying for guidance and strength and
Yes.
discipline. Those are the main things I pray for, and I know I can handle the rest after that. I just need to maintain my discipline, my consistency, and my focus really just thinking about the future. It's got to remember the now don't matter. Today don't matter. It's all about tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. No, absolutely. Well, I'm really glad to see how far you've come. You've been home for quite some time now. Praise the Lord. And I want to say this is my opinion, and you could tell me if I'm right or wrong. It seems to me that being a father has helped shape or reinform your perspective on life and being more future focused. Do you think that had a lot to do with it?
Yeah, that for sure. Yeah, it definitely is. I'm not gonna say like it just made me, like I'm just on my like super on it now. Like I'm just the best father on my. Like I'm not saying none of that, but it definitely changed my mentality where it got me like, yeah, I got a different focus. I can't be worried about basically what I want right now. You know what I'm saying? It's got to
Mhm.
be what we all benefit from later on. That's got to be what my worry is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, becoming a parent. Well, you know me, I became your mama at 19 years old, so I've been future focused for a long time, and I guess that's what did motivate me. But I don't know. You know, people are different, right? Everyone has their thing. You know, you got some folks that just still do whatever it is that they were doing and don't think about it. But for me, becoming a mom at 19, I was like, man, I had all these dreams of finishing college, of doing X, Y, and Z. I really got to push hard. I don't want to be a statistic. I want to be sitting on welfare on the county. That was my mindset. 19, I was like, I ain't doing that. I was like, I'm going to beat all the odds. And I pushed myself and pushed myself so that I could beat, the stats. Again, that was stacked against a black 19-year-old black woman with a baby, you know. So I think that's where a lot of my motivation came in early on, and I haven't stopped.
Yeah, I see. That's where I get my motivation from. I constantly think about you and even my kids' mother. I'll be like, man, y'all be on it. Y'all don't let nothing distract you for too long. From what I see.
Yeah, not too long. Like they do come, but you're right, not too long. And I mean, and that's just the bottom line. Having the kids is a beautiful thing, and it does change your perspective and your focus in life. For those who love really love your kids, love being a parent, we got other folks that's doing whatever they're doing. But for the average person, your kids really should be that motivational force that says, look, I got to do it for them. I don't want them to struggle. I want them to have things. I don't want them to have to try to just go through life struggling. It's like if I can open up some doors for them and lead the way a little bit here and there, provide some resources, that's what I want to do for my kids. And well, now for my grandkids.
Yeah, most definitely. And you still gotta remember to have your time too. Me and Jada, we always make sure we get time to like to go out with our friends or whatever. We still live our life, but we just make sure we not living for that. Like that's not what I'm hustling all week and grinding all week just so I could go do that. That's not what it's about though. That's just something a little therapeutic for me. You know what I'm saying? A little therapy to remind me I am a human. I'm not a robot sometimes.
Well, that's a lesson for your mama right here because I think I live my life like a robot. I don't really socialize. I've been thinking about that lately. I'm like, I need to just chillax sometime. I need to just chill sometime. So, what did I do? Yesterday, I went shopping and I just bought myself exactly what I wanted, didn't care what it costs. And I said, I'm going to spoil me because I worked too dang on hard to not have something that I want. So, I took myself shopping.
Yeah, I know that's right. Yeah, you gonna get outside. You still a young lady. Sure, you still looking good. You better go out there and enjoy yourself sometime. You deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm definitely going to do more of that. Well, this was a nice conversation once again, talking about the mindset, the power of the mind. And there's more to come, y'all, more to come. We're just scratching the surface right now, but there is so much more to come. And keep up with us. Make sure that you subscribe and watch out for the next episode.